The GoPro Hero 8 Black is a small powerhouse of a camera that was released a few months ago. And it's really nice because we've been talking big cameras for the last few weeks, and it's so much nicer to have something that just fits in your hand. With spring right around the corner, families, action athletes, and all sorts of other people, including me, we're all gonna be heading out of the house trying to get into some fun, and we're probably gonna wanna capture that with a camera. So let's revisit this tiny powerhouse and see if it's still holding up all this time later. So, does it? Let's find out. It's an action camera, I can slam it down. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Longtime viewers know that when this first came out, I was pretty harsh against it. But after I was able to use this for an amount of time, I kind of had softened to the newest GoPro, and even, I know, we're not supposed to enjoy things on the internet, but I did kind of enjoy this. Well, this weekend, and in this weekend, I mean last weekend, it's not the weekend it's not the future. I didn't travel into the future, but we put this back through its paces. So much like my other follow-up videos, this isn't going to be super spec heavy or very in-depth about technical features inside of this camera. I'm gonna talk about the things that I both like and I dislike from my own use case scenario. If you do want a little more in-depth coverage about the GoPro Hero 8 Black, I will leave links up here, I don't remember which way it goes, to a playlist that shows all of the great content about the Hero 8 Black. But to the video. So first up, let's talk about the biggest negatives of the camera and the thing to this day that just, I cannot think about the GoPro Hero 8 Black without thinking about this, and it just drives me crazy. It's the physical construction of the camera itself. I've complained about this in every single video because it hasn't changed. The camera hasn't changed on me. Before we do that, let's talk about let's do some quick history of the GoPro line first for context. The Hero 3 Black was my first ever GoPro. The camera itself wasn't waterproof or very durable, but it came with a waterproof, durable case. Remember that. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Same with the Hero 4 series. Then the Hero 5 integrated all of that together into a waterproof, durable body, and it didn't need the case anymore. And then they iterated this over and over again until we got to the Hero 7 Black, which in my mind is still to this day the pinnacle of action camera development, because it had that removable lens cover. That's the secret. That's the secret. The Hero 8 Black decided to take one step forward and then one step way back in the action depot. Oh, I almost knocked over the paper. And it does not have, it has an integrated lens, which if it gets scratched, you're hosed. There is now a roll cage accessory, hooray. So that kind of proves that you have a cage, you have a case that you can buy that will, you have a $25 case you can buy that will make this more durable when you could have included that case in the box like you used to. It frustrates me. Look, I get it that the roll cage is probably a great accessory for some, but it absolutely drives me up the wall when companies take out features or capabilities that previous cameras used to have to sell you those capabilities or features later. Cough, cough, GoPro again. Remember the Hero 7 White? I don't forget. Okay, if you want me to stop complaining about a GoPro, just include the roll cage in the box and I'll stop harping about this. Deal? Deal, are we all in agreement? Fist bump. Something else that I'm not thrilled about is the removal of the HDMI port. Now, I never specifically used it for streaming or external recording, but clearly there was a need or a desire for this in the marketplace. As you can go ahead, you can fix this by going out and buying the external media mod for 80 bucks. Hooray! Again, don't take away functionality that someone clearly wants/needs, only to sell it back to us later. And as far as negatives go, those are really the only two I have. And a little bit of theatrics because they do drive me crazy. But those are the only two big ones. Now I have gotten some comments on my other videos about people having problems with freezing while recording video with the Hero 8 Black, but I haven't had those issues since the Hero 6. The Hero 5 and the Hero 6, I used to have lost footage all the time, but the Hero 7 and the Hero 8 Black have been rock solid for interface stability for me. So now, we got the negatives out of the way. Let's talk about the things I like. I cannot mention the Hero 8 without mentioning how much I like the image quality. This does record up to 4K 60 frames per second and 1080p at up to 240 frames per second, and it will electronically stabilize up to 4K 60. When I first heard about the 8, I thought they were just rehashing the same old tech from the Hero 7 days. Hooray, it's the same thing, but with a bigger number. And while they haven't been innovating too much on the sensor tech, and the body has kind of regressed, the colors and straight up image quality out of the Hero 8 was without a doubt, it's the best I've ever seen on an action camera. Now I've said this in previous GoPro videos about the 8, but normally using action cameras, you kind of have to accept that the video will look like an action camera. And while this doesn't look like much bigger sensored cameras like we've got going on right now with the GH5 and the S1H, it actually does kind of look like a high-end cell phone. camera purists out there will be like, you might think that that's an insult to the GoPro, but it's not. High-end, heck, even mid-range cell phones like my iPhone 11 have amazing video capabilities anymore. So I don't think it's a radical statement to say how good phones have gotten for video, and the GoPro looks very comparable while being half the price. I also really like the slow motion capabilities in the Hero 8 Black. Normally, I don't do too much in slow motion unless it's with my GH5, which can do 180 frames per second in 1080p, but the 120 frames per second option at 2.7K on the GoPro looks pretty darn good. Now, YouTube is absolutely gonna maul this with compression, so you will probably see blocking or you will probably see artifacts in some way, shape, or form, depending on what device you are viewing this on, but straight out of the camera, it's absolutely decent. Normally we would move on, but I'm gonna keep this in the image quality section. The different fields of view are a huge positive here. Now GoPro, for some reason, is still the only action camera company that really gets this right in my opinion. All the other brands, whether it's Sony, DJI, I haven't used the Insta361R yet, so I can't say it does or doesn't. They have crop options, but going from the super view all the way down to the narrow makes this an incredibly versatile camera. If you are, let's say you're bombing down the trail on a mountain bike, this is me bombing down the trail, by the way, or you're going down the ski slopes, you can do super view and get everything in frame. Or if you are vlogging and want the image to not have like all that fisheye distortion or have like weird warping effects, you can use the linear and narrow options and it will give you nice and wide view, but it won't be distorted. And the GoPro Hero 8 does do 4K in linear mode. Previous to this, in like the Hero 7, you could only do 2.7K in linear, which was kind of disappointing. I'm paying for all these Ks, give them to me. The next really good thing about the GoPro in my mind goes hand in hand with how good the image quality is, and that's audio. Look. The Hero 8 Black has no reason to sound as good as it does. I don't have the media mod, I don't use an external microphone, I just use this camera by itself, and the audio is the best I've ever heard on an action camera, and might be one of the best, if not the best, like cameras for internal microphones ever. And I don't mean cell phones, I don't mean action cameras, I mean of any cameras, like the Sony RX100 series, the Canon G7X series. The fact that it does this while being waterproof is legitimately bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Portable camera that you can bring with you if you don't have an iPhone 11. And again, we'll compare the two in a future video because this has changed a lot. I mean, I would love to, hats off to the team, hats off to the engineering team, because I would love to know how they pulled this off, because that is a remarkable feat of engineering. And the third layer on top of image quality and audio quality that really makes this stand out almost alone amongst its peers is the stabilization. GoPro's HyperSmooth 2.0 is for real. Well, the boost mode isn't that great, but everything else about it is amazing. Just about the most unstable way to use a camera, like to get stabilization, is when you're running. I mean, imagine this, I'm running in place right now. I mean, you've got it in your hand, your body's moving up and down, your arm is shaking all over the place, the tripod or camera you're holding onto like could be moving that again. I mean, there are just so many different variables just violently moving in every direction that basically destroys it. Generally, it will destroy all of their camera's capabilities to stabilize. But the algorithm that the GoPro uses to ensure max stabilization, I mean, it's literally called max. It's literally called max stabilization on the GoPro Max. Dad jokes, it's to the max. The algorithm combined with a slight crop gives you the best stabilization I've ever seen on a camera. Is it as good as a properly balanced gimbal? No, but it is as good as the difference between bringing that extra piece of bulky kit along and the need to worry about additional batteries. That was a confusing way to say that. Basically, the extra hassle of bringing a gimbal along isn't worth it when you've got stabilization this good. You may disagree, you'd be wrong, but I hate bringing along extra crap that I don't need to carry. Ounces equal pounds. Like if you were somebody that goes out and about a lot, you know what I'm talking about. Little things add up to a lot of weight. Something else that I started off being rather iffy about, but I'm not so iffy about anymore, is the legs that are built right into this body itself. Now, I was concerned about the durability aspects at first, and yes, anytime you add a moving piece to something, you're adding a point of failure. And I don't like having points of failure added to like my action devices. However, I love these things. From a convenience perspective, these are the top. These are the best. On previous GoPros, there were several times where I would forget to bring that little cage. I just wouldn't be able to mount the camera to anything. I would forget some adapter. It just wouldn't work. I don't even think about it anymore. I just take this, throw it in my bag, and I know that it'll work. Now, this used to be one of my biggest complaints about GoPros, and while it's not as universal as putting a 1/4-inch tripod mount on the bottom, I do think this is a good compromise to not need extra stuff while maintaining the integrity of the body as a whole. Compromises. life is about compromise. There's a give and there's take. And the last major thing that I absolutely love about this camera is, again, something I didn't think I'd like in the beginning, and that's the new user interface. GoPro generally wins me over as having one of the best designed user interfaces in all of camera-dom, though Blackmagic is getting really close with their pocket cinema cameras. And I was shocked that at first it looked like they'd made the experience a little less intuitive this time around, until I kind of changed my perspective on the user interface of the camera. I had to change my mind, and when I did, it just all clicked. If you consider there's only a few groups of settings that you're probably gonna use, I mean, there's only a few groups that I use, you can easily set those quick options, and while out running, doing action, whatever, you can quickly switch between them. It's much faster and easier than trying to dial in each different setting individually. Okay, 4K, 30 frames per second, because it's the best. Okay, tap, 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 tap. You don't have to worry about that. You just tap, tap, it's a few taps, it works really great. Whew. 1,800 words later, how is the GoPro Hero 8 Black holding up all this time later? It depends on your use case scenario. If you want the most robust action camera ever, this hasn't changed my mind in the last few months. I still would recommend the Hero 7 Black over this. But do you want a portable, small, reasonably durable camera with image quality better than it has any rights to have? I led you to the answer I wanted your brain to think of with that question. Ha ha ha! Then yes, I would absolutely recommend the GoPro Hero 8 Black. I mean, it is, for what it is, it's a fantastic camera, and I think they're even running a special right now where you can get it for even cheaper. And if you liked this video and you decided to go out and get one, I bet you'd like to see my tips and tricks video so you can get the absolute most out of your GoPro Hero 8 Black. Click right here in the darkness that surrounds it. We're edgy today. We're edgy. Click here to see that video. Thanks for watching.